When people look at super scaling, people think that it's getting a business to the largest that they can, but it's not. It's about creating the systems that give you the freedom that you want, freedom of time, freedom of location, freedom of wealth, of course, financial freedom. So to have the finances that you want to do the things that you enjoy.
Welcome to the iSearch podcast. Today we have Alvin Poh on the show. So at 33 years old, Alvin sold his internet business for 30 million. After selling his company, Alvin spent the next 2 years traveling the world full time. So today he helps entrepreneurs to scale their business. Today I'll be discussing with Alvin on the blueprint to scale your business fast and also achieve 100,000 a month in profit. So welcome to the show, Alvin.
Hey, good to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
All right. So before we dive into the steps for the scaling, what are some common challenges that entrepreneurs face when trying to scale their business?
So it was 2020 that I returned to Singapore and started this business. I wanted to combine the two impact areas that I had, like entrepreneurship and education, right? My family situation, my own situation was completely changed because of entrepreneurship. And I really believe in education because that was what gave me my start in life as well. And I want to make sure that I contribute to both these areas. And I saw a business as the only way to do that. And that's why I went into coaching specifically entrepreneurs and helping them scale up their business. So the question that I had was, how do I do that, right? What framework? How do I actually help these entrepreneurs? And so the first thing I did was to really codify the lessons that I went through, all the experiences that I had in my about 20 years of entrepreneurship, into a framework that people could understand and could apply to their business. And it was a long process also, like it spanned many, many months, mostly of iteration. At the very start, it was just three pillars that I came up with, and the framework seemed incomplete. And I had to spend so much time refining and revising it. I went through a process of validating it with the market. So I conducted free webinars just to see how the market responded. And slowly the framework changed from three frameworks to finally four pillars. But yet something was missing. And I thought that I was looking at the business from all different angles already, and it seemed like I was looking at everything. And that was when I realized that the last pillar, or rather the first pillar, that I was supposed to look at was not the business at all. It's not supposed to be the business at all. It's actually supposed to be the entrepreneur. And that was the missing link. I realized that it's just like a racing car or a horse that's in a race, right? We don't just look at the car or the horse, it's also the driver or the jockey that's also important. And that's the entrepreneur, right? That's the CEO, that's the business owner, because so much matters who or what the leader does. And that was why the framework now has five pillars. The first pillar is all focused on the entrepreneur, how they think, what kind of beliefs they have, because the beliefs affect them, right? Whether it's a limiting belief or an empowering belief, and the visioning that they had, so that you can actually create a path for your business. And that was how I came up with the framework. I call it the 5E scale engine. It's the five different pillars that are necessary to really bring your business to the next level.
Okay, interesting. So let's go into the steps for the 5E to achieve this 100k per month profit goal.
Cool. Yeah. So it's five steps, as I mentioned, five different pillars. The first is evolve. And this is the same steps that I detail in my book, Super Scaling. The first is evolve because it speaks first about the entrepreneur, right? We look at what drives the entrepreneur, because who you are today is going to be very different when you run a business that's six figures, seven figures, eight figures, nine figures, right? When I first started my business, that was in 2002. I was 17 years old, I was a student, and the things that I thought and the thought processes, the mindsets, and the beliefs that I had back then are completely different than what I have right now, because of the experiences, the lessons, the knowledge that I gained over the years. And this is the process that entrepreneurs must take, right? They need to constantly stay ahead if they want to run a business. You cannot run say a eight-figure business with a mindset of a six-figure entrepreneur. So you've always got to constantly like upskill and up knowledge yourself And so that's why the very first thing that we work on is the principle of evolve, how the entrepreneur actually evolves to be a better, more knowledgeable, wiser entrepreneur, to be a better leader for the business. And that's just the first pillar. So
Okay.
the second pillar then is envision. So now that we've already worked on the entrepreneur, then we can look at the vision. The vision is the key that connects the entrepreneur with the business, because the vision is literally the roadmap. And a lot of times we all, as entrepreneurs, have this in our mind. In our mind, we have like an idea. Sometimes it's a little bit vague. Sometimes maybe it's very clear. But either case, it's still in our heads. And the goal in the second pillar of Envision is to really translate that, make it as sharp and clear as possible, and put it down on paper, not physical paper. You can have it on your computer as well. But the key is to have it there in a physical form so that your team, your customers, your partners, they can all understand where the business is headed to, why it's doing the thing that it's doing, and how it's supposed to get there. And this serves as the roadmap. So Envision covers all of this. It looks at the business model as well. It looks at all the different parts of the business that contributes to this roadmap and lays it down very clearly so that everybody knows what to do. So that's the first bridge between the entrepreneur and the business. Only after that's done, then we can move on to the third pillar, which is empower. And then now we look at the team. And this is one of the biggest questions all my coaching clients ask me about as well, because the team literally powers the business. If you look at the way a business scales, there are only two things that are necessary. One is processes, and two is people. So to have the people that you need working together as a team and not as a group of individuals, now that is something that is ultimately powerful for the business. We need to make sure that we have a great company culture to do this. We need to make sure that we have great hiring systems to actually recruit A-star players to our team. And after that, that's where people stumble, right? Because after you recruit A-star players, it doesn't mean, your job is done. As CEOs, business leaders, the next step that we need to do is make sure that we retain these people, happily, of course, not in chains, but happily, because then we can get them all to perform together as a team. And that's when you can get results and products and deliverables delivered on time and on target. So that's the empower principle. And then on the fourth principle, we now move on to the customer, and we look at the customer's journey with our business. My favorite analogy for this is the leaky bucket, because too often business owners only think about sales and marketing, right? Revenue, cash
Get
flow.
more new customers.
Yeah, exactly. But honestly, if you look at customers, acquisition is just one part of it. We need to make sure that we focus on customer retention as well. And this is another five-step process where we understand the customer journey that happens in our business, right? At first, the customer isn't even a customer, right? It's a prospect. We need to find out who our prospects are. We make sure we qualify them. We make sure that we are the best choice for them, and they know that, right? So that's why they will proceed with us. We make sure that we can convert them to customers. Make sure that we fulfill them by delivering on the products and services that we promised them. And finally, when they renew and refer people, we are their best choice, right? There's no doubt that they want to renew their services or products with us because we do such a good job for them, right? And that's how we really change our customers from just being like numbers on the screen to really like being raving fans, to people that we really appreciate, we trust, and we can actually count on to even refer their friends and family to us, just because we give them so much value and we treat them ultimately really, really well. So that's the
Right.
customer journey. And the last step is execute. Execute is the principle that's last, because again, I have an analogy for this. It's the analogy of Usain Bolt. And you know Usain Bolt, right? He's the world's fastest man. And I can say that I can beat Usain Bolt. The only thing is Usain Bolt has to run in the wrong direction. That's it, right? That's all that it takes for me to beat the world's fastest man in a race. And that's what happens in a business though. If the business focuses on the wrong things, optimizes the wrong things, scales the wrong things. So in execute is the last because we want to make sure the fundamentals and the foundations of the business are all properly set in place properly first. And then we look at execute because execute starts looking at how we can optimize, simplify, automate, delegate properly in our business. And that really helps us compound our efforts so that we can really achieve scale. So these are the 5 steps, right? In a nutshell, the book has the best breakdown for this, and it details the 5E scale engine and how you can actually apply that to your own business.
Right. Okay, cool. Just to recap, so is first step is evolve, second step is envision, third step is empower, fourth is
The customer journey, engage.
engage. Okay, and fifth is execute. So let's
Yes.
go through each one of the E's in this 5 step. So the first step is evolve. So like just like you mentioned, if entrepreneurs wants to evolve from a 6-figure to a 8-figure entrepreneur, the resources that he needs to get in, needs to study, has to be very different from say a 6-figure. So how can entrepreneurs find these kind of resources to grow further?
Sometimes it's the beliefs that you have. So when I was growing my business back then, I was just a teenager when I started my business. I was 17 years old. My co-founder was the same age because he was my classmate also. And when we first started our business, the only thing that we knew was like, the basics, right? You do work and then you get paid for your work. And we were trying to make that into a business. As we started growing and as we started hiring people and started having a team, that was when we had to figure out all these things the hard way. Personally, for myself as well, I had limiting beliefs, a lot of them. Like one of the limiting beliefs that I had was actually about hard work, right? My family instilled in me the values of hard work, right? You've got to hard work, you've got to work hard, you've got to be responsible and all that, which are great values. But the problem is sometimes we tend to apply them wrongly. And when you run a team, it's very different from when you are like an individual. Because as an individual, those concepts may work well, right? They tell you to work hard and be responsible. But as a business leader, as a team leader, as a manager, suddenly those things apply in different ways. You can't bring what you knew as an individual to the table as a manager because management is a different set of skills and different set of responsibilities. And I thought as a manager, I had to do the work all by myself. I had to make sure that I was the hardest worker, and ultimately that belief started causing me to be the bottleneck. And I was the obstacle in the business because suddenly now I was this like choke point and everything all started
You have to
flowing
go
through
through
me.
you.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
work, approvals, the tasks. It
Yeah.
was terrible because not only was I overwhelmed, I couldn't delegate also, and I couldn't make use of the team's resources, right? Their abilities, their skills, that wasn't there at all. So overcoming that limiting belief, that's so important in any aspect of business. So
So for you, how did
uh-huh.
you overcome this limiting belief for yourself personally?
So that's why everything that I cover in the book, right, is all told from a position of experience. A lot of times these things are learned the hard way, and I was actually going through like burnout, right, before I actually realized, no, I am the bottleneck, and I need to overcome this mindset because for some reason I wasn't doing things properly. Like I couldn't perform as a manager, and I was constantly thinking about why this was the case. And I thought I was not working hard enough, and then I realized this actually is a very famous saying, right? People always say you should work smart, not work hard. Like this is probably one of the best ways to exemplify it, because we need to understand what our true responsibilities are and how to best perform to them, right? As a manager, it's not about your individual work. You might be a great salesperson, but if you're a sales manager, it's really not about you being the best salesperson anymore. It's about you being able to leverage and harness the abilities of your team, who may be the salespeople, right? So it's very, very different. And I had to learn this the hard way before I realized that, oh wow, I need to change the way I think. I need to change the way that I'm a manager. I need to change the way I handle my team. That's how I learned this. And yeah, it was through the school of hard knocks.
Okay. So first one evolve, and second one envision. So envision is you have to tell not just yourself but also your team where is this company heading to, so that everyone has a common goal.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
To give you an example, I thought that everybody was supposed to, know what the job is about when they join you, especially when we were recruiting people and when we got the first few people. It seemed to make sense, right? If you hire somebody for web hosting, then obviously they are supposed to be a web hosting company doing web hosting tasks. But it's not necessarily the case. I know this because if you look in the market, not just in my company, which was in web hosting, let's look at any company like coffee, right? Coffee is a very commonplace business. Starbucks is very famous, right? And you can have like any other coffee chains as well. But when you ask anybody on the street who's a coffee lover where they will choose to have their coffee, it's very rarely they will choose Starbucks because Starbucks really isn't the best place to get the best coffee around, right? But yet they are big, yet they are very popular, yet they are a household brand. And it's not saying that they are doing a bad job. I think they are doing a great job. It's just that their business is not necessarily in coffee. So you can imagine a person joining, say, Starbucks and joining a boutique coffee chain that specializes in great coffee. Both of these people or both of these places will be coffee places, but your role in each of these places will be very different. If you were a purchasing manager, for example, and your role is to purchase like coffee beans in Starbucks, you might not be necessarily purchasing the best quality beans. You might be purchasing the best value beans because it'll be used on like such a wide scale. But if you go to a boutique coffee place, then maybe that role will change. Then maybe you'll be looking at the best quality beans because in that coffee place, maybe the focus is to have great tasting coffee, and therefore you need great beans. These are all different aspects of a business that needs to be absolutely clear. Otherwise, when we hire people, people are just going to assume certain things. And that's why visioning and coming out with such clarity is important because nobody knows what the vision that you have for your business is. And just like these two examples of like coffee places, right? The differences between these two coffee places is going to be the same for us as well, no matter what our business is, whether it's hosting, F&B, services, anything, right? We don't want people to assume. We want to be super clear about it, where we are right now, where we are going, why we are doing the things we are doing, what kind of plans we have, and the strategies that we're going to put in place. So the clearer we are with this, the easier and the better it is for people to put in and do their best work.
Understand. I think the example that you give for the Starbucks and the specialty coffee one is very, I think it's very useful because, like, for example, if the Starbucks one, what they are delivering is not necessarily the best coffee, they just want to deliver like a very nice experience for you with interior design, tip top, and music, and you can work there and chill for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, let's say a place that specializes in coffee, their aim is not to get you to chill there for many hours. Their aim is to deliver you like the best coffee that you can
Yeah,
get.
exactly. And so if somebody like thinking about the wrong thing, right, and assuming that they're supposed to deliver the best cup of coffee in Starbucks, no, they are not going to be able to perform, right? And they're going to be affecting the organizational objectives because they are going to be working on the wrong aspects of the business. It's not that they're doing a bad job, it's that they're doing the wrong job.
Yeah.
So that's why vision is so important.
Yeah, which this one you need to like communicate with the person before you hire the person that this is what we do before you
Absolutely.
hire them. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so communication is so important, not just at that stage, but like throughout the business. Because one of the roles that we play as managers and leaders of the business is that of communication. Like I would much rather over communicating rather than assuming and not communicating enough. And I
Yeah.
think that's something that's necessary for a lot of businesses.
Okay, brilliant. So the third one is empower. So how do you find A players and also retain A players?
Yeah, so this is a huge chapter. Empower covers everything from not just hiring, recruiting, retaining, but also like company culture as well. And most of the problems that people face is really defining what A players are. They don't know what an A player is because when I define an A player, it's going to be very different from what you define as an A player. Even within my company, for example, the different departments and different functions will have different requirements for A players. Just to give an example, if you are looking for an A player in sales, it's going to be very different from an A player in, say, maybe accounting, right? Or billing or admin, right? Because these are two functionally very different departments. And the kind of people that you bring on board have different personalities and different characteristics as well. And so the very first step that needs to be there when we design a hiring system like that is to really be clear on the attributes that we are looking for in an A player. Because the clearer we define the attributes, the easier it is for us to be able to test for the attributes. And this is something that must cascade down throughout your organization. Because as you grow, you are no longer the person that's going to be doing the hiring. You cannot, right? So this would be left with HR or other like recruiting functions. And you need to make sure that all these people that are doing the recruiting need to understand the kinds of attributes, the values, the characteristics, the skill sets that you are looking for that role and be able to test for them. So this whole chapter actually covers on many things. This is just one aspect of the third pillar, empower.
Okay. And once you hire them, how do you like retain them for a very long period?
So this actually goes back to the communication part of it, right? So what do you want in your career, Benjamin?
What do I want in my career?
Yeah,
So example, for me, it's like to deliver marketing services that can help the clients to double their sales.
cool. And that's a very personal goal to you, right? I can assure you, anyone that you get to join your team may not share those same goals. Maybe you hire a sales manager, and their main goal is to do a darn good job at sales so that they can put their kids through school, right? That's the only thing that they care about, right? Or maybe it's a designer that whose sole purpose is to really make sure that they can be the best designer that they can be, right? In terms of graphics, because they want to go on to win awards or be recognized globally, or to really start art movements or something like that, right? And all these people can be people that are in your company. So everybody's goals and aspirations are different. As a leader, you need to understand what they are so that you can harness them and help them along their journey. Because only when you do that can you really retain people.
Yeah. So it's like you have to know what their goals are, their personal goals, their business goals, and you try as a leader try to help them to achieve that goal.
Yeah. A lot of times business owners just focus on salary. And when you talk to
Yeah.
all these people, just like the two examples that I gave, and you tell them, you know what, the thing I'll give you is salary. It might work for the first 3 or 6 months, maybe a year. But after a while, they realize it's not really what I want. It's not really what drives me. It's not what fulfills me. And that's when you're going to be facing problems in retention.
All right. Got it. So the fourth one is engage. So what are some examples that you use to turn your normal customers into like raving fans of your business?
That's why we look at the customer journey into 5 steps and really break them down and see what the most important things are. A lot of times we need to design actions and to understand where or what the customer wants and how we can best deliver it. In terms of fulfillment, I think a lot of people don't spend time there. They spend a lot of time at the start, which is
Sales.
on sales, marketing, advertising. And so
Yeah.
maybe they do a really good job and they acquire lots of customers. But when it comes to fulfillment, suddenly they fall flat because they don't spend enough time there, and therefore they cannot fulfill, they cannot deliver on those products and services that were promised to the customer. This has got to do with spending your time, your attention, your energies, creating a process or systems in fulfillment, whether it's web design or web hosting or F&B or car sales or anything, any business, any industry, right? And it's something that businesses must spend time on developing. It's unique to every business, so there's no one clear answer. But the key is to shift your focus. As a business owner, don't just do everything at the start. Look at fulfillment as well. Make sure that when you look at fulfillment, that customer satisfaction is there, quality is there, so that the customers basically leave as very happy people, getting the value that they were expecting from your business. Now, that is something that allows you to compete with the other competitors that you have in your industry.
Yep. And also when the customers is like your raving fans, they'll refer their fellow business owners as well. And your chances of closing is like at least 80 or 90% as compared to say you meet a brand new lead that is still very cold.
Exactly. The cost of acquiring a customer can be 3 to 5 times as much as retaining them, right? With the money they spend retaining a customer. But for some reason, people keep looking at just customer acquisition, which boggles the mind because with existing customers that are happy with you, who trust you, it's so much easier helping them. You can even sell them more services because of the fact that they trust you and they know that you can do a good job already. And so they'll be more than happy if you want to like expand your services or to really like sell them different products or of course complementary products, right? Because it comes from you, they are going to be so much more receptive than a completely cold customer that you just acquired or you're trying to acquire.
All right, so we have moved on to the fifth and the last pillar, which is execute. So I think execute, the main part is how do you develop like processes, SOPs in a company and make sure that everything, the customer experience is the same throughout the company. Whereas it's not like one is fantastic, then salesperson B is like terrible.
Yeah.
So what are some advice do you think that is for a business owner to like develop a solid SOP?
So I have a funnel for this. It's called the RSET funnel. Like you analyze, you remove, you simplify, you automate. Then you finally, after all that is done, then you can delegate. Because we want to make sure that when we look at our tasks, everybody, right, including you, the entrepreneur, the CEO, the leader, when you look at the tasks that you're doing, the one thing that you must make sure you're working on are the tasks that only you can do because those are the highest value tasks. If there are tasks that other people can do, those are the ones that you want to make sure other people are doing, right? And we want to make sure we follow this process throughout the organization. That's when we realize we can delegate properly. As I mentioned, the two things that you can really use they really need in order to scale out your business are people and processes. This is the concept. This is the concept of leverage. It comes in the form of automation, delegation, simplification. And the concept of leverage is very powerful because it shifts the question that we have in our minds from how can I do this, right? Whether it's a task, a to do, a problem to solve, how can I do this to how can we do this? Because when you introduce the concept of we, now you're introducing the concepts of the resources that you have, whether it's people or tools or equipment or other resources. Now you're using that to think about how best your organization can take care of it. Because most of the time, you are not the best person to do it. Someone else on the team is actually the better person to do that. And I think it was Steve Jobs that talked about this, or was it Bill Gates? He basically mentioned that when he hires people, he hires the best, and then he gets out of their way, letting them
Yeah,
do
Steve
the
Jobs.
yeah, that's Steve Jobs, letting them do the best job that they can. Because I mean, your role is not to be better than them. Your role is to hire the best who are most likely going to be better than you, and let them do their job because they are going to be so much better than you can. You can be at that. So that's what we
Yeah,
want
I
to do.
mean, a lot of entrepreneurs have this problem. Like, they might think that only I can do this job the best. There's no other person that can do a better job than me, so I
Exactly.
cannot let go this task.
Exactly. And then that becomes a leadership or management issue because it definitely stems from those beliefs that I mentioned again, the beliefs that hold us back and hold our companies back because those beliefs are literally what causes us or the individual to be a choke point or a bottleneck.
Okay, great. So we have gone through the 5 E's. So let's say the entrepreneurs they've achieved this 100k per month profit goal. What's next?
Well, it depends on what the entrepreneur wants. And that's the beauty of the 5E scale engine. Super scaling actually, when people look at super scaling, people think that it's getting a business to the largest that they can, but it's not. It's about creating the systems that give you the freedom that you want, freedom of time, freedom of location, freedom of wealth, of course, financial freedom. So to have the finances that you want to do the things that you enjoy. So 100k profits is just a financial goal, but we are looking at all other aspects of creating like happy customers, creating happy teams, and more importantly, creating happy founders.
Okay, great. So to wrap up, is there anything else that you would like to share with the audience?
I think there's a lot in the 5E scale engine. Like, I mean, we barely scratched the surface. I know you got the book as well. And I think if
Right.
people want to read more or find out more about how the 5E scale engine can apply to their business and what kind of lessons they can use to take their business to a new level, the best way is to really get the book. I have it on my website as well if people want to get it, but it should be in most popular stores or Amazon.com.
Yep. And also, I highly recommend this book. It's very good. It goes even deeper on the 5 E's on each of the steps. So if you are interested, get this book, Super Scaling by Alvin Poh. So thanks, Alvin, for coming onto the show. Check out Alvin down below, and I'll see you in the next episode.
Cool. Thanks for having me.